Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be my top 15 fall eyeshadow palettes. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. This video is going to be about some favorite eyeshadow palettes for my favorite season, which is the fall time. I love fall. I love fall eyeshadow color stories. And I think I've been doing this kind of video for a couple of years, so I'll make sure to link my other videos in the description box down below so you can see how my preferences have changed over time. I always try to include some new things in videos like this as well, but there are a couple of palettes here today that I know for certain I've mentioned before, so let me just get down to it because I've got 15 palettes to chat about. But before we get into the video, I'd like to introduce myself for people who may not know what I am and what I do on this channel. Hi, my name is Maaike. I live in the Netherlands. I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, and this greatly influences how I feel about makeup. I have been reviewing makeup for more than a decade. I love eyeshadow palettes, Essence and Catrice, and getting the use out of my makeup. So I hope you would like to consider subscribing, and then let's just get to it. So yes, definitely some palettes here that I know for certain I have mentioned before, but I also wanted to include some other color stories that maybe I have mentioned before, but that are also newer to me, which I'm certain I didn't have yet when I did this video last year. So there's going to be a mixture of some new things here as well as some older things. So the older things that I have here, I'm certain I've mentioned these 5 palettes before. So these are more like honorable mention, and then the other ones are more like my top 10. That's the way you need to see them. These 5 palettes, you know about these. I've told you about these before. Melt Gemini. Does it get any more grungy classic than this? It doesn't. I think that the Gemini is the original murky green with a warm tone color story that we ever saw a brand do, and then every brand started doing their rendition of it. I'm not gonna lie, my favorite part about the palette are the green tones, not so much the warm tones. But as far as a fall color story, if you just look outside and see what nature is doing, then this is what we see. So in terms of a perfect fall color story, it doesn't get more perfect than this. I really enjoy the Melt formula as well. They can be a bit hit and miss. That's why I don't have every single palette they do. I only pick and choose from what they have on offer. And to be quite fair, in recent years, I haven't been intrigued by all that many Melt releases. So that's why I haven't bought much new stuff from them, but yeah, they can do a really good eyeshadow, and I still greatly appreciate the Gemini. I think this is like the 3rd time I'm featuring this palette in one of these videos, the Nomad from Juvia's Place. I believe they still do this. I saw it on their website. I'm not sure if it's in stock, but again, if you want something that's a little bit more neutral and not as green heavy as the Melt, then this is stunning. Yes, it's got warm tones, but I kind of ignore the orange and I use everything else. The addition of the yellows make it really stunning if you blend it out with some of the greens. This cool tone in the middle is really, really stunning. You get something to, again, blend it out. So if this is too intense for you, that cream can work really well there. You get a really nice, intense, deep, dark brown that is a cool tone, which I love. And then you just have those murky green tones over on this side that make the palette. A lot of people don't like when I say this, but this color, green, brown, murky, pukey kind of shade, it's life. It's shades like this that make the grunge in any palette just stand out on your lids. And I like it. If you blend it with a little bit of the yellow, again, you can tone it down. If you put it with the greens, you get this really glam green look. But you can also use it with some of the neutrals here and that shimmer all over the lid for something a little bit more daytime appropriate. You can just really mix and match this palette together, which is why I like it as a palette to begin with. It doesn't have a lot of shimmer options. I could have done with another shimmer. I mean, that yellow has a sparkle to it, but we all know that's just there to make it blend easily. And that's just, you know, if that, or maybe that yellow, if that would have been another shimmer, I would have liked this even more. But yeah, if the Melt is a little bit hard to get or a little expensive, then Juvia's Place Nomad can give you a similar-ish look. I would say it's a little bit more cool tone and you don't get as many warm tone neutrals in it. This guy. I feel like a broken record by now, but this is a Shroud Cosmetics Arcana. Yeah, mine says Shroud. It doesn't say Strobe. Some of them say Strobe, which was their old name. But yeah, this is a stunning palette. I have mentioned so many times how I feel this is just a perfect grungy fall color story. It's got the jewel tones you want, but you also get some warmth and some cool tones. I mean, it's basically split in the middle between cooler tones and warmer tones. And I have just managed to do this in September. I tested out my theory of mixing the Arcana with the It's Freakin' Bats and the Moonfall, respectively. So the It's Freakin' Bats, which was the collab with Betty Bean, it has some stunning shades that go in really nicely with these cooler tones. And I used some of these warm tones to pull into the the Moonfall palette, and it looked stunning. So if you have a couple of Shroud palettes, definitely try and see if you can mix and match some of the shades. I felt that pulling the Arcana into those two palettes made those two palettes a little bit more wearable and a little easier to work with, especially because this just has a couple of like really good, like more muted down colors that go perfectly into a crease, and that just mutes down the entire thing and makes it just a little less outspoken. So especially if you're someone who's like, you know what, It's Freakin' Bats, it's pretty, but those periwinkles are not my shade. Combine it with some of the murky purpley things that are going on in here, and you can really tone it down and just make it look a little bit more lovely than these very vibrant shades. I love a vibrant shade for sure, but not all the time, and definitely not to work. So this was a lot more successful for me. And this is also instigated by something I did in September. In September, I reviewed some Alter Ego palettes for you. They sent me the dupe version of the gold palette, which is their goddess palette, and it just made me realize how good the gold color story actually is. This has of course been discontinued, but this year Natascha Denona came out with the Yucca palette, and that's a little bit more warm tone, but it also has some cooler tone shimmers, and rather than teals you get greens, which is why I'm still a bit on the fence about it. I wasn't able to spot it in real life just yet. But yeah, if I do see it, I may still be interested. I'm still a little on the fence, but for the most part, it seems a little bit more yellow than neutral brown, which is what this is. But for fall, especially this side of the palette, like this is the neutral half, which you don't want to focus on. But this part of the palette is just your mustard browns with like those teals, and I love it. This shade is from the Lila though. I changed the yellow tone gold out of this palette and put it into the Lila palette, which I gave away, and now I have just this shade from the Lila, which is the duochrome, which I feel gives it a little bit more of a grunge vibe. So this is definitely stunning for fall. I really like a mustard yellow in the fall time, not only as a eyeshadow, but I love mustard yellow in cardigans and sweaters, and I have a mustard yellow dress. Like mustard yellow everything is a fall thing for me for sure. And finally, the Haunted Europe from Nomad Cosmetics. So this was discontinued last year, and they now came out with the Ghost Town USA, which a lot of you were saying, okay, this is going to be my first Nomad palette. I think if you've never tried Nomad, the new Ghost Town palette is stunning, but because I have this and some other Nomad palettes, I feel I don't need it. Because if I take some shades from all of the different Nomad palettes I have, I get to the Ghost Town palette. So this is another thing I'm sort of talking myself out of, because it does look stunning, and it does have a couple of shades that I'm like, ooh, that's nice. But as far as a fall color story, I mean, we have the pumpkin patch side, and then we have the heathery purplish side with the berries. I mean, it doesn't get any more fall than this, y'all. It just doesn't. It really, really doesn't. I think this is a stunning color story for the fall season for sure. This is my favorite Nomad palette. I'm so sad they discontinued it. And I keep the box because the box has the little bats on it. Looks like very Dracula-esque. And then the palette itself just has the lady that changes from a lady to a skeleton, which I think is great. I just really, really love this, and this is what I wanted Nomad to do. I have decluttered some Nomad in the past because it wasn't quite delivering what I wanted it to, but then I tried this and was like, yes, Nomad can do a good thing if they set their minds to it. If I find Nomad in a color story I like, I definitely can get down with the formula, which is why that Ghost Town palette is still like it still is a nugget in my brain somewhere, but because I have this, because I have the Fire and Ice, I don't feel I necessarily need that one. And it seemed to be more warm toned when I started seeing swatches than when I saw the actual palette at face value. But maybe Black Friday, I don't know yet. I haven't really planned out my Black Friday shopping yet, like what I'm hoping to get. Usually I already know in like October, like, oh, Black Friday, like I'll purposely not buy certain things so I can get it for Black Friday, but I don't have that this year. So we're gonna have to see how that goes. And the next 10 palettes are all palettes that I think I haven't mentioned before in this series, but it could be that I did. There may be some overlap here, but these are like my current top 10 favorites, and there are quite a few newer to me palettes. Speaking of new palette, this is one that I haven't even put on my eyes yet. Yeah, I tried a couple of shades in my first impression, but I still need to do the dedicated looks with the Capetown palette from Essence. And this is why it's perfect for fall. We get teals, we get greens, we get some murky, cooler tone browns, and then we just get the warm tones. This travel series from Essence has been doing some nice-ish things that made me go like, yeah, that's pretty good. But there was always something lacking, something disappointing. And this is the first palette that I'm really going like, Essence? Is that you? Is that you? So I can't wait to do more looks with this because I just need to try every single shade here. That yellow tone gold is stunning. But you know I love a teal, so yeah, I can't wait to try this a little bit more and to really test it out and see if it is as good as I hope it is. So this is definitely on the to trial pile for October. So please come back at the end of the month when I do a palette review. I do them once a month on here, so you can see me raving about, hopefully, this Capetown palette from Essence. This is one I'm pretty sure I've mentioned before, but the Cashmerie. And this is definitely because of Lorraine, because Lorraine has been saying, yeah, Cashmerie, I like it, but it's more of a fall palette for me. And so now I'm like, yeah, I can see why. So this is actually currently on my palettes I want to go back to pile. So every single month, I also choose a couple of older palettes that I know I love to just use them again and get more use out of it and just have fun with it. And this is definitely one where I'm like, yeah, I can see the fall vibes. It's definitely more neutral though. We get some rosy tones, we get some warm, some cooler tones, and some true neutrals, tying it all very nicely together. This is such, and Viseart is one of my favorite formulas. So we had to put a Viseart palette in here. And I think it's also due to the packaging. Like the packaging just screams fall, doesn't it? It does to me. So yeah, the Cashmerie, we couldn't leave it out. If I've mentioned it before, I do apologize, but it's still good. It's still good as a fall time color story, I feel. And another palette that I'm currently still going back to because this is something I tested out, but I don't think I put it in my fall video last year because it was the fall limited edition collection that Catrice came out then. So I know I bought this in October and I probably hadn't tested it out yet by the time I was able to film a video like this. So I don't think I mentioned it then. Maybe I did as an honorable mention or something. But we all know how much I ended up loving this. This was my favorite palette of 2022. I keep raving about this thing. I'm terribly sorry it was limited edition. Yes, it's got warmth, but it's mainly about the rosy tones and the neutrally things that it's got going on. I just really enjoy this, and that's why it's also, again, on the list of palettes I want to go back to before the end of the month to be able to just use it again and get more use out of a palette that I just adore so much. And then I was like, you know what? Perfect fall color story, Natascha Denona Mini Zendo. I did not think I was gonna love this, which is why it was such a surprise to me when I actually bought it and I did like it. It's actually quite similar to what I've got on my eyes today, but this is a Catrice palette that I'm testing out. This is the new Wow in a box that Catrice does. But as I was using that, I was like, it very much reminds me of the Mini Zendo, but the brown in the Catrice isn't as plum and it doesn't have this cool tone. It's got a different shimmer. It's got more of a gold shimmer in there. But yeah, very similar vibe, I feel. Very stunning. I love this warm tone, and I thought it was going to be too peachy, and I normally don't love peaches on me. I just don't, because of that cooler undertone. But the way this comes together, I feel that these peaches have enough pink in them that it still looks flattering on me, and that sort of like green tone gray in the middle is just life. I've got some more mini things here. This is the Cocky Haze from Huda Beauty. And I was like, you know what? Cocky's for fall, and especially with these warm tones. Like, if we're doing fall, again, like the Melt Gemini, if you just look outside and you see the leaves turning, I feel that this is what we're going to get in a lot of places. And I just think that this looks stunning for the fall season. I mentioned it in other videos as well. If I go for a warm tone, it's usually like post-summer leading into fall, but before we really get like the icy bluish tones of winter coming through. So this works perfectly for me in like October, November-ish. And then I sort of make the switch through to like true cool tones if I want to go for something like this. So this is again one where I'm like, maybe something I need to go back to in November. But I think I've just gone through all of my mini palettes from Huda Beauty in the past couple of months to try and get more use out of those. So it's not a must to do that, but I do really enjoy this one too. But we all know I prefer a neutral, and I was thinking, you know what a good neutral would be for the fall season? The Cold Brew from Kaleidos. This is just stunning, and a lot of people have told me like I don't feel that super cool toned. I feel this is a cool tone palette. It definitely looks more cool tone on me, and that also has to do with the shimmer we get inside. I think the reason why it looks warm tone to people is because this has a yellow undertone. However, this is very neutral. This is not overly warm tone either, and this as well. The way I use this palette is with this in the crease, this as a liner or to deepen things up, and this all over the lid. And this shade I kind of ignore. Because it's got that yellow undertone. If I use it, I just use it to blend out this to make sure it's nicely diffused because it's closest to my skin tone, and then I feel it can work. I think maybe if you're a truer cool tone than I am, this may not be overly cool toned on you, but on me it definitely pulls more cool toned, which is why I like it. But there's just something about these shades that, I mean, also the formula is just amazing, that I think this screams fall to me. It just does. It just very much reminds me of how the light hits certain things in the fall season, and that's why I wanted to feature it here. I showed you the Melt Gemini, but I think my current love when it comes to a warm tone, neutrally leaning palette with greens, it would be this. It translates to nice weeds, I've been told, and this is by Glam Shop. This was their, like back in the summer when every brand seemed to be doing like a warm tone palette with greens, this was the Glam Shop version of that. But can you see that this has cooler tones? So if the Nomad is too warm toned for you, look into this, because essentially this is the only warm tone we really get. This looks warm tone, but can you see that flash? Yeah. So it's got a brown base, but then it has a green gold duochrome sort of flash. These are cool tones. These greens are more gray leaning as well. So this to me is just the amped up version of the Nomad. That's just the way I feel about this. This is incredibly stunning. It's got the Glam Shop formula I love. And if I'm gonna wear these kind of greens, like the Huda Beauty, like greens in the fall time, there's just something about it. It just hits different. Now this next one may be a little bit of a surprise to people because I wasn't a huge fan of this quality. But the Odin's Eye Jewels and Gem, and also their Stone and Rock, I think are stunning color stories. And again, I know that by now people think I hate on Odin's Eye. I don't dislike the brand. I think they do really, really incredible color stories. It's just formula-wise that it's not my favorite. But if you don't mind this formula, if it's your favorite, and you have this lying about, I think you have a stunning fall tone color story on your hands. Because what do we get in here? Essentially, we get some steely, bluey grays. We get some rosy tones with some purples, some really nice like grayish blues. That burgundy shade is pretty nice for the fall season as well. And then over here with those like warmer toned greeny golds, it works. I think that as far as a color story for the fall time goes, that has colors, but that is a little bit more grunge, that has everything you need, it's this one. It just is. And another color story that I think is great for the fall season is the Dollhouse by Blend Bunny. So again, Blend Bunny is a brand that I think a lot of people think I don't like, but I just found that with Blend Bunny, I just want other things, and the brand doesn't necessarily deliver that. That doesn't mean that the palettes are bad. I just have other expectations of what a eyeshadow palette should give me, and that's why the Dollhouse was still one that I did like. But I just want some more shimmers. I mean, we only get 2 rows of shimmer in here. The other ones only have 1 row of shimmers. The deep row is just a little bit too deep for me, to be quite fair. But in terms of color story, I mean, can it get any more perfect for the fall season than this? I mean, it's grungy neutrals to a T. And I think that if you do have a deeper skin tone and you can get away with some of these darker shades, this is absolutely stunning for you. Was it for me? Was it perfect for me personally? No, but I think that this can appeal to a lot of people, similar to the Odin's Eye. And I just think that really, if you enjoyed this look and you want a really good formula, I think the Blend Bunny Cosmetics formula is actually really good. It's just that I want more shimmers. I just do. That's the only reason why I don't rate this palette into the high heavens like some other creators do. But it doesn't mean I don't like them. I like them well enough. It's just I want more shimmers and lighter shades, please. And finally, and this is a palette I haven't even tried yet, but the minute I unboxed this, because I did already take it out of the packaging to see if it hadn't cracked, but I bought myself a new Lisa Eldridge palette, and some of my viewers may already know what this is. This is brand new to me. I haven't even taken pictures of this. It just came in the other day. This is going to show up in a haul in November for sure. But this is the Sorcery palette. Look at those color stories. What did I say about green? Like, green is a theme. Green is the theme for fall, for this fall video for sure. But this is a little bit more of a teal. I'm so happy. I hadn't seen this in real life yet. I did see it in Selfridges over the summertime, but it was out of stock then. And I knew that this one was slated to be back in stock very soon. And then I saw it on the Instagram that it was announced that this came back, and I was like, oh, I need to get that. So I got this, prioritized this over getting more of the Velveteens, but I did get 2 more shades to try of that formula. Because Lisa Eldridge is, of course, incredibly expensive. I mean, this palette is 59 euros. This wasn't sponsored. I bought this with my own money. But this, like, Lisa Eldridge is one of those brands that just, it just gives me all the feels every single time from the packaging and the formulas. These are removable pens as well. I can't wait to swatch this and play with it for the first time just to get a feel for the formula, but I won't be able to use this anytime soon. I think November eyeshadow palette review, this maybe December. I'm not sure yet how I'm going to space it out. But yeah, this is really, really stunning. It's an all shimmer palette. It only has 1 matte, I think. But yeah, I think it's going to work perfectly well with my Vega palette that I already own from the brand. I think they can substitute each other quite nicely. But these kind of shimmers, man, for the fall season, I think I love it. I could have mentioned so many more eyeshadow palette in this video today. As I'm sitting here filming this video, I'm like, oh yeah, my fall magic from Unearthly. I could have mentioned that as well. I could have shown you my Sigma Enchanted. I love that for the fall time. Like, there are so many good fall color stories, and it's my favorite season for both fashion and makeup. Like, fall is where it's at for me. I'm like the happiest in fall. I don't know what it is about fall, but it's like, you know, we still have some nice days. We have this like post-summer sort of warm days that will see you through, but we also get some shortening of the day. So it's time to get cozy. It's when I read the most. It's when I don't know why, but I love life when it's fall time. I just do. So I just really, really love fall. So I hope I was able to take you on a journey and share my love for all things fall with you, and that these are some good color stories that can get you into the fall mood. I definitely hope that I achieved that today, and thumbs up the video if you did like this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more by me. I make several videos every single week, so like stay tuned, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.